deference to a fulsome message, I'm not going to read the Sanskrit salutation to the dawn. And if you would like to hear it at some other time, you can come talk to me after our service. And now, Reverend Tudor.
Well, thank you. I told her I feared being a little long-winded, so I will still try to clip my own wings. So I just wanted to say, first of all, I feel so easily set up. It's beautiful music. You have tipped your hat in my direction. The poetry that you used already, Judith, and the story, everything is already there. You already can probably anticipate where we're going here. Dancing with chaos. My husband laughed when I told him I was going to be speaking on this topic because he knows that I'm actually the polar opposite of someone who dances with chaos. I'm the kind of person who needs to know the plan. I need to know, I don't like to be caught off guard. I told him when I first met him that I'm the person that is always looking at the horizon, scanning for something that's going to come up, and I need to be prepared for anything that's going wrong, anything that could possibly come up. I've got to have an action plan or a defense, like a good Girl Scout, right? I'm always prepared, just in case. So I've got something in case it comes up. It could also be the product of a dysfunctional alcoholic home, but that's a different question altogether. That it's a skill. I see it as a skill. And he also knows me as someone who always wants to know the plan, while he, on the other hand, likes to keep his options open. He doesn't want to make a plan. He likes to figure it out, and be spontaneous. So there is the rub. So that's how we operate. But then the more we talked about it, we realized that, we really have been dance partners of chaos in our lives together. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a bit. First of all, I'm going to do what probably every guest speaker does, give you a definition. The definition of chaos, it's Greek, comes from K-H-O-S, did I say it right? K-H-O-S. Formless, primordial space, the abyss from which the created emerges, right? Creation myths arise out of it. It's biblical too, by the way. Gaia, the world of form, arises from chaos and descends back into it just as we do. In other words, it's not ever done. Chaos is the stuff of which the next thing arises. And there is always an emergence, and then a decline and a decadence, and it goes back into decline, and the pieces fall apart, and the pieces are reconfigured and reassembled into the new thing. This is the way it works. So this stuff is natural. For chaos to exist, it is simply the abyss out of which the next new thing is created. It is the process for the new thing to be created. And so that means that there are many possibilities and infinite choices. So why aren't we dancing? So why aren't we rejoicing? Why aren't we excited? Why do we do like I do? Scan the horizon for the next terror to arise in my neatly laid out world, and my expectations and all of my plans and all the ways in which I think things ought to be, right? Today, I'm drawing from a chapter of a book called Living Originally. It's by my favorite instructor in ministerial school, who just turned 85 this past month. His name is Reverend Robert Brummett, B-R-U-M-E-T, if you are so moved to take a look at his book. He practices and teaches insight meditation, as well as other Buddhist spiritual practices. He is a a Unity minister. But he was so instrumental and impressed me when I was in ministerial school. But I used his book in a series of talks, and this particular chapter he named Dancing with Chaos. And he describes the universal experience of chaos, what it means and how to emerge with it. And I wanted to share his perspective and these ideas with you today. And I'm sure right now you're wondering, who's lining up speakers to bring chaos into our charming Sunday sanctuary of serenity, right? I don't blame you, really. I'm not a big fan of chaos. But here's how Robert Brement talks about it. He says, by consciously entering the realm of chaos, you enter into the dance of creation, and a star is born. By consciously entering the realm of chaos, you enter the dance of creation, and a star is born. He goes on and says, beneath all chaos is an underlying pattern of emergence. There's an underlying pattern of emergence. It's not just a mishmash. It's not just, you know, a mess. It's not just a messy room. Recognize and resonate with that pattern, he says. And here's the deal. Intention is the attractor in a field of chaos. In other words, we're the ones who hold the intention in a field of messed up stuff, messed up by our perspective, messed up in the ways in which we were viewing things than what we thought it was going to be by our expectations. But with our intention, we can begin with our vision to see what is it that is wanting to be brought into being. What is arising next? Maybe we thought it was all settled, it was all okay, it was great the way it was, I knew what to expect, but now something new is wanting to come into being. And rather than resist it or fight it or call it wrong or bad or stupid, what if I met it where it is? What if I begin to include it? What if I begin to meet it and understand it? What if I begin to make space for it? Intention is what we do, and draw what is needed to assemble the new thing, the new view, the new emergence. Because remember, nothing is happening to you. It feels like it. Something hits you up the side, something catches you off guard, something blows things out from under you. Yeah, something happened to me. But it didn't really. We are in the middle of it. We are part of it. We are the attractor as much as we are. We are part of what it is. We are in the field. And so because we are, what we intend, what we see, how we react, what we do, what we don't do, what is our next thought, what our next experience is in the mix. And so whatever we can participate with is also a part of the natural process of emergence. We are also, how can I say it? We are also what has instigated the emergence without really being aware. Our very presence has called it out. We don't know how or why. We won't know until it arises, perhaps. And like so many of you in my own life, I can't tell until further down the path I can turn around and see what actually happened, that I can put the picture together and I can tell the story then. but I can't tell the story while it's happening, right? I can only see, oh, that's, and then that happened. I thought it was going this way, but it went that way instead. And I wouldn't even be here now if that hadn't happened, right? If we consciously surrender to the process, feel your feelings, let them go, and return to peace. Feel your feelings, let them go, return to peace. Breathe, repeat. That's really the best advice I could give you. I tell you, in anything, in any moment, in any condition, feel your feelings, let them go, return to peace, breathe. You can meet anything, anywhere, equipped and loaded for bear with that. Become curious and aware, just for a moment, watching for the elements that arise or make room for the next creation by your intention. If you could have it any way you wanted, what would you like to see next? I had a wonderful teacher, a mentor, a therapist. She would always ask me, Karen, when I would complain and whine about why it was like this and what happened and it's not supposed to be, and I would just, tell my terrible, terrible story. And she'd say, Karen, if you could have it any way you wanted, what would you want? And I would say, well, I can't. They did this and that happened and now it's like this and I can't. It's taken away from, I'm powerless, And she'd say, but if you could have it any way you wanted, what would you have? What would you do? And I thought it was a ridiculous thing. And I was a Unity minister at the time, too. I taught this stuff. But at the time, I was in my little self, feeling very powerless and very hurt. And I knew she was right. And then I knew what I really wanted. And I knew what I could really go for. And I did. Become curious and aware, watching for the elements that arise or make room for the next creation, drawn by your intention. Look for the thing that you recognize, that you would like to see. What is it that's showing up? What keeps happening? What is the rise? Where I was telling you I was looking in the distance for things. That's a good way to be always looking. I was looking for danger, but now I can look for what's coming next. What could be gathering some momentum? And I can be anticipating something that's coming and wondering and become curious and aware and meet it there before it becomes an upset. Upset to me because it's going to change. Things are always changing. They aren't staying the same. The Tao Te Ching says, the Tao of heaven does not strive, and yet it overcomes. It does not speak, and yet it is answered. It does not ask, yet it is supplied with all its needs. It seems at ease, and yet it follows a plan. The Tao is not a thing outside of us. It is greater, and yet it is through us. And it resides, comes through us, and our perception is, Tao is our awareness. When we are aware, we are in the awareness of the Tao. So we don't strive. In perfect awareness, In awareness, we see, we know. We do not speak, and yet it's revealed to us. We don't ask, and yet our needs are supplied. We suddenly see how everything fits together. We seem at ease, and yet a plan has unfolded, and we begin to see what it is we really want and what might be next. And in this moment, even if we don't have what we want, in this moment, we have everything we need. How many times have you had tragedy happen or something befall you or something wipe out your plans, and yet you can sit and know in this moment, even in this moment of bereavement, loss, in this moment you have everything you need. You don't know about tomorrow maybe, but you know for right now your needs are met. In this moment, it's okay. You're going to be okay. Robert Brummett says, watch for chaos as it arises. Bow to it. Greet it as a new dance partner. Listen to the silent music. Feel its rhythm in your body. Let the intention for transformation be the attractor that shapes your life, experiences, and then step into the dance floor. He says, chaos carries the potential for transformation because it challenges our identification with ego. That's the culprit. It challenges the ego's very existence. However, that which is real cannot be annihilated. See, the ego isn't real. The ego cannot predict the future. Ego cannot look into the future. Ego can only multiply the past. If you ask it to predict the future, it will just take whatever it already knows and magnify it and multiply many times over. I want what I had in the past, and I want it 7 times bigger. That's what I want. I want $1 billion instead of just $1 million, That's all the ego knows. Cannot dream big, can't dream the unknown. So the ego is what crashes against in chaos because it fears letting go of what it has never experienced. Your true nature, on the other hand, Robert says, is indestructible. And you don't really lose the ego, you need the ego, you simply lose your identification with it. It's not the only thing. The ego then becomes more fluid and transparent, and it serves as a vehicle for your true nature to express through it rather than an obstacle to the experience. You become more whole, but you become greater than it. The annihilation of ego feels like death, but it's not death. It's the awakening to your true life. You become larger, greater, more at peace. It does begin to start to sound like a dance, doesn't it? You begin to dance. You become more. You start to slide around. You begin to slide on the ice. Just like the penguins did when they used to march, but now they slide with the snowmen. Practices to use. When you sleep, when you get ready to go to sleep, rather than planning and anticipating the day you have scheduled for tomorrow, try practicing some mindfulness and some peacefulness before you go to sleep. If you don't already, you may do that. Just entering a state of openness and curiosity about tomorrow. Notice how you feel as you get ready to fall asleep, and then again as you awaken. Breathe slowly in, slowly out, and enter into your sleep. Just relax. Try not to focus on any particular thing as you drift off to sleep. Do calming, peaceful things. Read something that just puts you in a state. That's all you want. You just want to feel good, feel relaxed, not anything in particular. And when you wake up in the morning, the same. Notice the light coming through, notice the sound of birds. Just allow yourself to let yourself be nurtured and open. And greet the day as it greets you. And come into it open and receptive. Gradually, you will find your bearings, remember your schedule, get up and do whatever you have to do, but with less anxiety. Your dreams will come. Take a look at them, but rather than focus on what you're dreaming and who's in it and what it means, please don't get a book and try to look up the details and see what red shoes means in your dream. I mean, you can if you want. But rather, take a look at your dreams and just ask yourself how they make you feel. And that allow the feelings of your dreams teach you more about how you're feeling about your inner life and what is it that you can learn from that. The filmmaker Greg Colbert said, "What I have learned from chaos is this." He says, "Ever since my house burned down, I see the moon more clearly." Ever since my house burned down, I see the moon more clearly. I find that chilling to think that losing everything cleared a space and a view to see the clear night sky and the shining white moon. We have to ask ourselves, what else are we missing? What else is standing in our way? Robert Brummett says we can choose to see chaos as the potential for freedom rather than as an unfortunate disaster. My husband and I went on our first date November 10th, 1984, and within a month we were engaged and married 6 months later. By November 10th the following year, a whole year later, I was married, pregnant, and we were both in treatment for addiction and codependency. We didn't recover on our own. We had spent the next few years in and out of different kinds of treatment or therapy, as well as 12-step groups. Some of my very best friends I still have from 12-step groups and still benefit from that. But I invite you to not walk through whatever it is you're facing by yourself. Don't walk alone when everything you think you know is shattered or before you. There are those whose purpose it is to show you another way because they've been there too. I know you know that. You've probably been that for others. Shattered expectations, it's feeling your emotions helps sweep away the shards of broken dreams or expectations and clear away the new dream so the new dream can take place. Joseph Campbell calls the still point of the axis of the earth. I don't know how many of you saw the conversation with Bill Moyer and Joseph Campbell. It was life-altering for me. And he showed it how the axis of the earth goes through, and there's a still point where the earth turns, but in the center, nothing turns. And the still point of the earth is unmoving. And in that is where, very much in our experience, there is no movement, and it's still. T.S. Eliot describes it this way: at the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from or towards, at the still point, there the dance is. but neither arrest nor movement, and do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered, neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline, except for the point, the still point. There would be no dance, and there is only the dance. In the Tao Te Ching, there was something formed out of chaos that was born before heaven and earth, quiet and still, pure and deep. Be willing to be transformed by the unexpected, by the loss, by the disappointment. I stand before you today as a unity minister. If the things that happened to me in my marriage at the very, very beginning, and all the chaos we were thrown into, that I thought my life had come to an end, I would not be here today. I may not even have 6 grandchildren. I might not have a marriage. I couldn't predict. My little tight life was well planned, and it didn't include any of that kind of chaos in my plan. But because we danced, a whole different life opened up. I'm sure you can point to changes in your life that happened unplanned, that have brought you the gifts of your life. What new things await you now? If chaos has arrived, you can trust the dance has already begun. Many blessings.